There's a version of exhaustion that nobody talks about. It is not from your to-do list. It is not from lack of sleep. It is from who you've had to be in order to keep everything running. Being the one who notices, the one who adjusts, the one who holds it all. And today we're talking about what that identity is actually costing you. Welcome to the Ann Jones Show. I'm Ann Jones, nervous system coach, former registered massage therapist, and certified fitness coach of 16 years. This podcast is for high-achieving women who are tired of abandoning themselves just to keep everything running. Let's get into it. Welcome back to week 3 of my Out of Overwhelm series. If you've been with us for episodes 1 and 2, you already know that we've been looking at and talking about why rest isn't working and why your nervous system is running the show. Today, we're going to go one layer deeper because I want to talk about the hidden cost of being the capable one, the reliable one. And I woke up a little bit sick yesterday, so you're going to have to bear with me and my falls here. So here's what most of us believe about overwhelm. Most women I speak to think that they are overwhelmed because they just have too much to do. So they may try to do less, if I can convince them, right? We may try to delegate more. We can look at our calendar and we can think, okay, if I just clear some things, I will feel better. And sometimes those things do help for a moment. But a lot of high achieving women have a to-do list that is actually not the source of the problem. The identity is their identity. You're not just the woman who does a lot. You are the woman who holds everything. The one who notices the things that nobody else noticed, right? The one who adjusts when everyone else forgets. The one who will remember. The one who keeps track. The one who can handle it. The one who doesn't need much, like super easygoing, right? And those are parts of an identity. And it is an exhausting identity to perform around the clock. Because when reliability stops being a choice and becomes the only way you know how to feel safe, useful, good enough, worthy, it stops being a strength and it becomes the reason that you can't even hear yourself anymore. I want to introduce you to a concept that I love. I love this term the first time I heard it. It was from Terri Cole. She's my favorite psychotherapist and author. She calls it auto-accommodating. And it is different from just saying yes too often. That's the obvious version of auto-accommodating. But truly auto-accommodating is something more subtle, exhausting, and tiring than just saying yes all the time. It is a low-grade, semi-constant state of hyper-awareness about what everyone around you needs. Not just because you're asked to do things, not just because there's a crisis, but because your nervous system learned at some point that it's your job to manage the emotional and logistical temperature of any room that you walked into. You learned this somewhere, and it was I call these self-protective behaviors that helped you at that time. So it was useful, right? You scan, you anticipate, you adjust, you fill in the gaps before anyone even asks it of you. And here's the part that's so important. Auto-accommodating is often completely invisible, even to you. Like most of my clients, when I introduce them to this idea, it resonates with them deeply, but they had no idea that this is what they're doing. You think you're just being thoughtful, considerate, a good team player, a good partner, a good mom, a good friend, a good sister. And you are, but there is a cost. Terri Cole describes it as like a computer running slowly because there's a huge programming open in the background. You don't know why you feel so drained. You can't see what's eating up all your energy, but something is running constantly, even when nothing particularly hard is happening. And that background program is auto-accommodation. Your nervous system is in sympathetic all the time, scanning, monitoring, adjusting, managing. And if it goes unchecked long enough, it starts to feel like anxiety that you have all the time because physiologically it is. It's the same stress hormones, the same cortisol response, the same fight or flight activation happening not from real emergencies, but from the constant low-level vigilance of being responsible for everything around you. It doesn't come out of nowhere. For most of us, it started in childhood, in homes where there was chaos of some kind, whether it was addiction or perfectionism, emotional unpredictability, parents who needed managing or parenting, systems that were unsafe or no systems at all. A child in that environment doesn't learn that hyper-awareness is optional. She learns that it is survival, right? She becomes highly attuned to others and their emotions. She reads a room before she walks in. She senses a shift in energy before anyone speaks, and she gets things done. She takes care so that the temperature stays down. And she gets praised for it because she's the responsible one, independent, mature, the good girl, right? Your good girl conditioning, the one you can count on. You get a badge of honor for these things. And then she grows up and she keeps doing it. because it used to work, right? It kept her safe. And by now, it's just the way that she is, or at least that's what she believes. Probably didn't even think about it because it's so automatic. I want to bring in another concept I love that sits right beneath this. Kara Loewentheil, who is a Harvard-trained lawyer and current feminist mindset life coach, talks about what she calls over-responsibility. I love this idea too. She names it as one of the deepest patterns she sees across the highly capable women who she coaches. Society teaches women that they are responsible for everything. Responsible for how they look, responsible for what everyone else thinks of them, responsible for everyone else's emotions, responsible for the outcome of every project, relationship, every room that they are part of, responsible for insulating everyone around them from having negative feelings or experiences, responsible for the appearance, and then all of those things for their children and their partners, right? And the cruel thing is they get praised for attempting to carry all of it all the time. The selfless woman, the giving woman, the helper, the woman who always puts everyone else first. She's celebrated. We call her a good mother, a good wife, a great employee, a great team member, a great volunteer. Nobody questions what it is costing her because it's coming from somewhere. If you didn't hear last week's episode about the stress bucket, go back and listen to my explanation of the stress bucket. I love how Kara Loewentheil, she says it quite plainly. Some women are managing to keep all the plates spinning, but if even one comes crashing down, everything is at risk for her. They can't get sick. Their kids can't get sick. They can't take a vacation because they're not just holding their own life together, they're holding everyone else's lives together too. And because her brain is never off, because there's always something more that she should be managing or fixing or anticipating. The exhaustion is not just physical. Last week, we also talked about types of rest: emotional, mental, physical, sensory rest. Go back and listen to last week's episode, June 22nd. The exhaustion is not just physical. It's never getting any of those types of rest. And it is the exhaustion of never, ever getting to stop, even just in the brain, right? So let's name what this actually takes from you if this is you, because I think a lot of women feel the cost, but they don't have words for it yet. The first hidden cost: you lose access to your own needs. When you spend years prioritizing what everyone else requires, the question, what do I need right now, becomes almost unanswerable. That's for many women I work with. Not because you don't have needs, but because you have practiced overriding them for so long that you've stopped registering them altogether. You stop asking, what do I need? And you start asking, what still needs to be done? And those are two very different questions. One keeps you in relationship with yourself. The other keeps you in service of everything else. The second hidden cost: you confuse urgency with morality. When you take on the identity as the reliable one, the rule you follow is this: if someone needs something, it matters. If something is unfinished, you're failing. So no wonder everything feels equally important. An email that really can wait feels like an emergency. A request that could be redirected or delegated becomes your responsibility. Saying no feels not just inconvenient, but morally wrong. I have coached women who had trouble prioritizing, not because they lacked focus, but because every single commitment felt morally necessary. And I just want you to hear how real and true that is, because when you're used to being the person who everyone counts on, choosing one thing above all does mean disappointing something or someone else. And that feels like a character flaw versus the reasonable limit that it is. Here's the third hidden cost: you become resentful and then ashamed of the resentment. This one is uncomfortable to name, but it is very real, and I do see it. When you give more than you take for longer than is sustainable, resentment builds, and it builds quietly and gradually, because the reliable woman is not supposed to resent the people she loves. She's supposed to want to help and to want to give. So she turns the resentment inward. She tells herself she is being ungrateful. She's being mean. She's being selfish. But resentment is not a character flaw. Resentment is information about your capacity. It is your nervous system telling you that something has been one-sided or lopsided for too long. The problem is not that you're just a resentful person. The problem is that you have been running on empty and calling it virtuous. The fourth hidden cost: you stop trusting your body. Hunger gets overridden. Fatigue gets labeled as laziness. Fears get pushed down because there's no time for them. Irritability gets treated as a mood problem rather than a signal that something is depleted. I wanted to share a clip from one of my clients, Terri Lynn, because she said something that I've never been able to stop thinking about it. Well, before we started working together, she was convinced that she had an anger problem. genuinely believed she must just be an angry person. What we discovered together was something completely different. Here, I'll put it here in her own words. I don't get to that state of overwhelm like I used to. I'm able to process things differently. I literally thought I had an anger problem. I thought I was an angry human being. I was not angry. I was just having like sugar crashes all freaking day long, or I was starving hungry. Her body was not the problem. Her body was the only honest part of the whole equation. And when you stop listening to your body, when you treat hunger and fatigue and irritability as inconveniences to manage rather than signals to hear, you lose one of the most important sources of information, the most important source of information. Your body will eventually tell the truth that your calendar keeps trying to hide. I always say, like, your body, the universe will give you a poke, right? Give you a prod, give you a punch. And then if you don't listen, eventually it will hit you with what we call the universal 2x4, something you can't ignore because you've been ignoring it for too long. And then the fifth hidden cost, and this is the one that lands the hardest, you forget what you want. The reliable woman does not lose her goals overnight. She just stops consulting herself. She is so practiced at asking, can I fit this in? She forgets to ask, do I even want to fit this in? She gets so used to what everyone else needs that her own desires start to feel either indulgent or completely inaccessible. And then one day she looks up and realizes she cannot answer the question, what do I actually desire my life to look and feel like? That is no small thing, because that is the slow, sad erosion of self. I have coached women who were grieving and still highly functioning, still being present for their families, still showing up for everyone else. And the cruelest voice in their life was not the hardship or the pain of loss. It was their own internal commentary, calling themselves lazy for having a slow morning when they're grieving, calling themselves a loser for not having a greater capacity. Some women do not fall apart like dramatically and loudly, and like I would say most of the women I work with. They stay quiet. They continue to agree, they continue to be kind, and they privately just dismantle themselves to accommodate. I've also coached women who were scattered across far too many directions, where every commitment felt equally necessary, where choosing one thing felt like abandoning another. And it does feel like that. And the shift is not a new productivity system. It was always permission to slow down, to cancel things without guilt, say no, to go to bed earlier and forego something else, to return to their own values in the morning and let that be enough. I've coached women whose turning point was asking two completely different questions. Instead of asking, what is wrong with me? They started asking, what is realistic? And what do I actually desire? And that shift from self-interrogation to self-inquiry, that is where things begin to loosen. I've also coached women who believed deeply in their bones that rest had to be earned, that they would sleep when everything else is done. Even though they didn't want to believe that, that was the beliefs that they're living with over and over. But everything is never done, so they never truly rested. The reliable woman does not rest when she is tired. She rests when she has finished, which means most of the time she does not rest sufficiently or at all. So here's what I want you to hear most from this. You're not overwhelmed because you're not organized enough, although sure, that could help, but it's a Band-Aid solution. You're not overwhelmed because you need a better system or a different app or a more disciplined morning routine. You are overwhelmed because you've built a life where everything and everyone gets to matter before you all the time. And that is not a time management problem. That's a design problem. That's a self-abandonment pattern. And it lives in your nervous system, not on your calendar. We have to address the state. We have to address the state at the nervous system level of the body first. And then we can deal with things like organization and calendars. But when your nervous system has learned that your value depends on what you do for others and how much, it will keep you in that loop, no matter how many planners you buy or meal plans, because the behavior is not the problem. The self-protective behavior is not the problem. The limiting belief driving the behavior is the problem. The belief that rest must be earned. The belief that your needs are optional. The belief that the role that is exhausting you is the one you are terrified to stop playing. Now, here's what I want to be clear about. The way out of this is not to become unreliable. I am not saying that. This is not what I'm saying. Be a reliable person. Live by your word. The way out, though, is to become self-led. A self-led woman is dependable. She can still show up for the people she loves. She can still be generous and capable and thoughtful. She is not available to be any of those things at the expense of her body, her sleep, her peace, her values, or her sense of self. She asks very different questions. She doesn't ask, oh, can I fit this in? But what will this cost me? Always something. She does not ask, but what if they're upset? She asks, is this mine to carry? Not, how will I get everything done, but what actually matters right now. I think that's the biggest one and the one that I use in my daily life, literally in my daily life all the time. I do not ask myself, how will I get everything done? I'm not going to get everything done. And neither are you. I don't even entertain it. I constantly come back to the question, what matters right now in this moment? Is it recording this podcast? Is it eating? Is it getting off my phone and listening to my child or my husband? Is it walking outside? What is the thing right now? And lastly, it's not why can't I handle this, but why does it feel like I can't handle this? What is my nervous system trying to tell me? That reframe is where overwhelm starts to loosen. Not because your life just got easier, but because you stopped deserting yourself when it gets full or hard. If this episode landed for you, here is what I want you to say. This is not a homework assignment or a to-do at all. Just a question. Where have you been treating your own needs like the optional part of the equation? That's where we start. That's it. Can you identify that? And if you're ready to go deeper, I would like to invite you to my Stop the Spiral Before It Starts masterclass. This is my free masterclass I am offering on July 15th. We're going to look at how your specific nervous system responds to overwhelm. We are going to identify your personalized default stress pattern and get you at least one specific body-based regulation tool that you can put into action the next day, that night, the next time things start to spiral. So this episode is the why, the masterclass is the how to do it. I will put the link in my show notes so that you can register, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week for week 4 of my Out of Overwhelm series.